Welcome to History Nuts. I'm Russ Carson Jr., the founder of Family Tree Nuts. At Family Tree Nuts, we build family trees for people, and we produce videos at historic locations and videos that help to honor your ancestors.
I'm Jameson Cable, founder of the Kentucky History Podcast, where we talk about anything Kentucky history, events, people. If it has to do with Kentucky, we're going to discuss it.
And we've teamed up together to bring you History Nuts.
History Nuts is a live show where we talk about, you guessed it, history.
Right. History seems to be less and less to people today, but we are trying to do everything we can to keep it alive.
Absolutely. History is a passion of ours for sure, but it connects to you. Russ, tell us about the best part of the show.
You can join in. You can comment and ask questions live.
We've got a great topic today, and we know you're going to enjoy this episode of
History Nuts.
Hey everybody, this is Russ from Family Tree Nuts, and man, I am really super excited about this video right here. It's, hey, I want to join the Sons of the American Revolution, the SAR, but I don't know how. I don't know who to talk to, what I need to do. So I am super excited to have our guest with us today. We have a Mr. Robert Brotherton, who's in Clearwater, Florida. So I'm real excited, but he's very, very, very involved with the Sons of the American Revolution, and I'm not going to steal his thunder, but I wanted to just bring him to you there. And guys, make sure you chime in with some questions. I can see your questions here, and I'm going to be learning a whole lot tonight along with you guys there. So make sure you ask questions so we can get that to Mr. Brotherton. So you want to say, hey, Mr. Brotherton?
Yes. You want to hear a little bit about me? Is that what you're interested in?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure your mic was working there.
Oh, yeah,
so,
working fine.
But I've got your script. Mr. Brotherton likes scripts, so we're gonna follow that pretty well.
Cool.
So
cool.
But Mr. Brotherton, I understand you're a licensed engineer in Tennessee and Florida, and you also have an interest in history and genealogy. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right. Well, Russ, I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's not good. We're near Lexington, Kentucky. We don't like Knoxville, Tennessee.
I graduated from the University of Tennessee.
Oh, man.
And I served as a county engineer for Knox County, Tennessee, until moving to Florida in 1985. I served there as a city engineer and public works utility director in Dunedin for 18 years.
Wow.
And then I retired in 2003. And then I didn't learn about what retirement means, and so I started my own engineering business. And now I work for like 4 other cities doing the same thing I did for Dunedin, but for smaller cities that cannot afford a licensed engineer. So I do that. And I'm about to retire probably for the second time.
Wow.
And relative to genealogy, it's been a hobby of mine for about 20 years now. And I've served as a family historian for many years, have file cabinet after file cabinet filled with stuff. I've written 1 book on my Harding line in Kentucky. I've also got just personal stuff. I've got about 300 orchids in an orchid collection that I take care of.
Wow, that's cool.
And I sing in the Southern Gospel Quartet, and we sing around the Tampa Bay area in churches. So,
can you do some singing right now?
Well, no.
we haven't had any singers on here.
Well, you should have told me I had some music for you. Anyway, you might want to put the picture up there on Caladesi Island. I think Jordan's got a picture there to show. I live in Dunedin, Florida. Have you got that live, Jordan? I live in Dunedin, Florida, and Dunedin, Florida is just immediately north of Clearwater, Florida. And it's interesting because Dunedin is a Scottish town. It was founded by Scottish people.
Good.
There are 3 Dunedins in the world, one in Canada, one in New Zealand, and the one here in Florida.
Awesome.
In Dunedin, we have 2 of the most beautiful parks and the #1 beach in the United States called Caladesi Island. It's been ranked the #1 beach in the United States, including Hawaii, 2 out of the last 5 years. And that picture you see there is of Caladesi Island. And that's in the city. I live about 3 miles from that island.
Mr. Brotherton, we have people that watch this from all over the country, all 50 states, multiple countries. Nobody wants to see how awesome your beach is right there. So we got people.
Are open. The beaches are open in Florida right now.
Oh, awesome. That's great. That's a pretty nice beach.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah, buddy.
And
You're pretty lucky.
I've got some connections to Kentucky that you may not know about.
Yeah.
My great-great-grandfather, Henry Wildy Harding Sr., moved first from Stafford County, Virginia, to Tennessee in 1819, and then he, at 18 years old, and then he moved to all places, Callaway County, Kentucky, over to West Kentucky. You know, and they had the Jackson Purchase. The west part of Kentucky and the west part of Tennessee was purchased from the Indians, and that opened up a lot of land for development.
I think that was 1820.
I don't remember the exact date of the purchase, but he shows up there in about 1836. He was a farmer and a land speculator, and he actually founded the First Baptist Church of Murray, Kentucky.
Wow. And
his picture and his wife, Elizabeth English, their pictures are in the lobby of that church today. It's a big Southern Baptist church today. I've got my book. I have a book. I don't that. Let me. Can I advertise my book? This is the book.
Absolutely. Please do.
This is my book that I wrote. I don't know if the people can see it or not, but you can buy it if you're interested in the Harding family in Kentucky. This is a great book for people to buy on Amazon.com is where you can buy that book.
Well, you got those Kentucky roots, so that makes you a Kentucky Wildcat fan, I guess.
Well,
doesn't it?
No. I lived in Lexington from the 6th to the 9th grade, but I'm still more of a Tennessee Vol than a Wildcat. I'm a volunteer.
I don't have a problem with that, but a lot of the blue people do. So, but yes, sir. What I'm learning from what you're telling me, sir, is that you've had a very learned background and you're very knowledgeable and a professional background. So we're real lucky to have you on the show here to tell us about the Sons of the American Revolution. There's already some people chiming in here. Miss Subian Ninian said, "What is the process?" And thanks for asking that. We're definitely going to get into that too. I see there's lots of people that I know that's chimed in on this video here. So I see hey to Mindy Fusetti and April and my cousin Richard and my Aunt Barbara's on there and my friend Sue's on here too. But there's a whole lot of people that are checking this out. But I get to the meat of the topic that people are wanting to hear so much is I know you're the first vice president of the Sons of the American Revolution there in Clearwater, Florida. What is the Sons of the American Revolution?
Well, it's a very interesting history. After the Civil War, there was a lot of patriotic fervor in the United States because around the 100th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, then many of the patriots in the Revolution were in the process of passing away because of their age. And several organizations got together to form patriotic organizations. And then in 1889, several of these organizations combined to form the National Sons of the American Revolution, and which also marked the 100th anniversary of George Washington becoming President of the United States. Then in 1906, the SAR was actually formally established by an act of Congress and signed by President Theodore Roosevelt, who was also at that time a member of the SAR. And now there are over 500 chapters of the SAR, and many in other countries also.
Wow.
We have several organizations today, including the Daughters of the American Revolution and the Children of the American Revolution, CAR. The Daughters are actually more well known today than the SAR because they do a whole lot of outreach and things to the public, a little bit more than the SAR does. And a lot of people know about the DAR, but they've never heard of the SAR.
Absolutely.
So
you know, now that we know the history of the SAR, which is really cool, what do they do? What are the goals of them? Why would someone want to join the group?
Right. Well, there are three primary goals we have, Russ, of the SAR. These are essentially the same as the DAR. These goals are, number one, patriotism. We try to inspire patriotism in our communities by promoting the principles that our nation was founded on, including personal freedom and personal responsibility and respect for the American flag. And I did a presentation not long ago to a local city because they're presenting the flag properly. And a lot of people don't know that to have the flag properly flown at night, it has to be lit. And if you don't light it at night, you're supposed to take it down. And a lot of people don't know that, including a lot of cities don't know that.
What time do you take it down?
You take it down at dusk, before the sun goes down.
What time do you put it up?
You put it up when the sun comes up in the morning at sunrise. We recognize the accomplishments of both adults and school students by giving certificates of achievement and that sort of thing. That's part of the patriotic thing. And for history, we're a big history organization, kind of like your interest in history. We are too. We provide memorials for people and events in various parks and places. We preserve records relating to the Revolution. We support genealogy research and presentations relative to history and people of the period from 1750 up to 1800. Our third goal is education. We do a lot in efforts of education, and we sponsor contests for students based on their historical themes that we give. We distribute history curriculum. We inform our communities of the events and the basis for the Revolution and Constitution. And the Florida SAR is now working with the Florida Department of Transportation to improve the curriculum about the Revolutionary War and for the students that we have here in Florida. So we're helping the Education Department rewrite the curriculum for that. And we also have fun, Russ.
You do?
We have fun.
Oh, well, that's good.
we have a color guard. You know, you've seen color guards, right, that show up at various events.
Absolutely.
And they carry their flintlock rifles and the flag and drums, and we have a color guard in our chapter. Not all chapters do, but we do. And then we have special events. What? And then we also have events where the guys and the gals dress in colonial uniforms and we get together and dress and have events dressing as if we were in that period of time.
I've seen pictures of you in your uniform. I thought you were going to wear your uniform tonight.
No, I decided not to wear that. I decided we'd show the picture. Did they show the picture of the uniforms there on the screen?
Yeah, we definitely can see it.
Yeah, I thought that would be better because in this video you wouldn't be able to see much of the uniform on me. It'd be better to show it in a picture. So that's what they're looking at there is one of the events.
Yeah.
And if you want to join the SAR and you want to encourage your children to be members of the CAR, the Children of the American Revolution. And my grandson who lives in D.C. Is 11 years old, and he'll soon be a member of the CAR there in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and I hadn't heard of the CAR before. And before I talked to you, I hadn't even heard of that organization.
Yeah, well, the CAR is very similar goals and objectives as the SAR, but it's open for children and adults under the age of 22. And they emphasize a lot for these younger people. They emphasize leadership and getting young people to do things in front of the public, stand up and learn how to speak and make presentations. And so we give them instruction, and I think we've got a little video, I think, of my grandson in a minute. I'd like to explain that before it's shown.
Yeah.
The video you're about to see is of my grandson, Nicholas Brotherton. He's 11 years old. He was invited to speak at the Washington Country Club in Washington, D.C., for George Washington's birthday. They have an event there every year. And one of the things they do is they recite the American's Creed. And Nicholas is 11. He led the people there at this event were the CAR, the DAR, and the SAR from all over the Washington, D.C. area. The large event in a large banquet room. And what you're going to see is you're going to see Nicholas leading everyone in that group and that pledge, the American Creed. I think it's really, really neat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that. You got that, Jordan?
I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy in a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon those principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which the American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
All right, Russ.
Wow, Mr. Brotherton, that was great. That was great. I really enjoyed seeing that. You've got to be really proud of him.
Right. He's a great kid. He's a great kid.
That's the epitome of raising them right. There you go. Absolutely. Like that. So how does many people have heard of the Sons of the American Revolution, the Daughters of the American Revolution, and maybe even the Children of the American Revolution. How do you join? I mean, the Masons, to be one, ask one. This isn't that kind of an organization, is it?
Right. This is a different. Not anybody can just join because you want to. This is what you call a descendancy type organization. In other words, you have to prove. There are other organizations like the SAR. For instance, the Mayflower and the Jamestown Societies.
Right.
What that means for the SAR and other organizations is that a person, you have to prove through acceptable paper records that person descends from a patriot who fought in the Revolutionary War. For the Mayflower Society, they have to prove that they descend from a person who came on the Mayflower. So each of these organizations has just a little bit different type of standard that they use. And we have, as you probably know as a genealogist, you know that there's primary sources and secondary sources of information.
Right.
And so you have to have all the records to require a particular ancestor in the family have to be proven by at least one primary source. In other words, as you go down the line from yourself down the line, you have to prove that that person actually descended from the person below you all the way down to your patriot. Now,
how do you prove that? I mean,
it takes paperwork. For instance, a primary source would be, for instance, a death certificate. If a person dies, and a lot of the older records, the death certificates, especially in the Northeast United States, there's a lot of death certificate information available, and that would show not only the person died, what they died from, and then it also shows the name of the father and the maiden name of the mother, which is really important because the line does not have to go all the way through the father. It can go through the male line. It can go down through the mother, and then back to the father and back down to the mother. So you have to
So it can zigzag. It can zigzag.
Yes, it can zigzag. And that's why death certificates are really important in this research, because that's one of the good records where this can be done. So here's an interesting thing that's going on right now, Russ, is DNA. Now, I think you maybe have thought about or talked about DNA in other programs, but DNA today by most organizations is considered a secondary source, not a primary source, and therefore you cannot use DNA to prove lineage in these organizations.
Right.
Now, historically, only paper records are available. Back in the old days, we have DNA now, but that's something new. So the rules on DNA have really not been laid down and proven yet, or decided what is proved. For instance,
why do you think that is? Like, I know why, but
I'll tell you why I think it is.
Okay.
For instance, a birth certificate that shows who the parents are is considered a primary proof.
Right.
Even though the father listed may not be the real father. Right. Sometimes.
They always say.
Sometimes only the mother knows.
Mama's baby, daddy's maybe is what I've heard.
Right. So. And therefore, but those records.
So I got to do those DNA tests.
Well, therefore, sometimes paper records may indeed be wrong, but they are what is accepted. Now, the new science of DNA has kind of thrown a wrench in everything, and the means to determine membership for membership. Some organizations are accepting DNA if it relates to another source, maybe a secondary source, but that's really very rare. My opinion on why they're hesitant on the DNA thing today is because if they do so, then that might prove current members of a descendancy type organization to be unqualified to be a member. So that's just my personal opinion about why DNA is not so is not so acceptable these days, because people don't want to give up their paper records.
And I know too, with the DNA is we're going back here so far here. You're going back to somebody that was born, generally at the earliest, closest to in the 1760s.
Right.
At the absolute latest kind of thing. So, going back that far, for most of us, that's at least a fourth great grandparent, if not a seventh, eighth, ninth great grandparent. So how are you going to pinpoint which DNA lock that is? Except for a lot of other matches that meet that same person. But
there'd have to be some standard for a whole lot of other matches to make that be proved. I'm sure they can come up with some standards at some time in the future, but they're not there yet. Now for the SAR, there's an application form that has to be filled out. Okay, and this application form starts with a person that's applying for membership and then moves down the line on the form to the patriot. Each person must be proved to descend from the person shown below on the form. There's a place on the form to show what type of record is used, and then you have to attach that record to the form. Now, this takes a lot of work.
Absolutely.
One of the resources that we use, that the DAR uses and the SAR uses, is we go to old SAR and DAR records, and we go to the Patriot. We think we know who the Patriot is, so we go to the Patriot, and then we look at the lines that have been proven, and we go back down that line, and hopefully find 4 or 5 people, and those are the hardest ones to prove. And then we can use those historic records that have been approved and add them to your records and make that overall process a little bit shorter. Yeah,
I'm really glad you said that, because this can get overwhelming. If you start talking about 10 levels of your tree.
Right.
As we know, the further we go back, the population gets smaller and smaller and smaller. The American population during the Revolution was only about 2.5 million people. So, and 500,000 of them were in Virginia. So, if you can get back farther, you surely can link into somebody else's work that's already been proven. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that is relieving, I'm sure, for lots of other people.
That's if you're fortunate enough to be able to find that. It's not always the case.
Sure.
Now, to do the application requires somebody who knows how to do genealogy research and who also knows what the standards are for that organization, because each organization might have slightly different standards of proof. Like anything else, it takes knowledge of the rules and also the skills to do the work. So you can have the skills but not know the rules, or you can know the rules and not have the skills. So you have to be able to do both. And the big issue of this is it takes time. It takes a lot of time. And the more skilled the person is, the less time it takes to do the work. So just because you think or a friend connects to a Patriot, or you have a family record somewhere in your family, somebody says you connect to Patriot XYZ, that does not mean that it can be proved. Okay? And just because you don't know doesn't mean that you don't have one.
Sure.
So it's important for a person to find someone to help in this process.
And that's what you do. You do some of that work yourself, don't you?
Right. I help the Clearwater chapter. People come to me, and we have a genealogist, and I'm his assistant, and we split the work up. And typically, most people have to have some type of information to get it started. They just can't say. This really falls back on the individual to at least make an attempt to give some kind of information. Maybe there's an old family tree and a family Bible or something like that can be given to us to help us get started. And so that falls, some of the requirements fall back on the person looking to become a member, and then the other key is to find the right person to help them finish and get through that process. And not all chapters have a genealogist. Some do and some don't. Some might refer you to another chapter. And then sometimes you might have to hire a company, a genealogy company that does it, like Family Tree Nuts or somebody that can do the work and find it for you and help you get that work done.
Right.
And this, after you get it done, then you have to send it to the state genealogist for approval. And then after they approve it, it goes to the national genealogist for national approval. And by the way, the national headquarters of the SAR is in Louisville, Kentucky.
We don't like them either. Louisville's an island. It's its own place.
Kentucky. So if you want to go and visit there, they have some great things to see there at that facility. I've never been there yet. I have never been to Louisville. I have never seen that facility. I look forward to going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good spot for it.
And
because there's a tremendous amount. You know, Kentucky was vastly settled by Revolutionary War land grant receivers, so that's a really good spot for it.
Now, to find there are a lot of SAR chapters in Kentucky, and if someone listening wants to find out a local chapter, all they've got to do is do a Google search for Kentucky SAR.
Yeah.
And then the state SAR website will show up, and you look around on that website, and then it will list all the chapters in Kentucky. And so you can go find what your local chapter is, make a phone call, see if they have a genealogist or what they can do to help you with your research. Sometimes they'll help you for free. Sometimes they'll charge a fee. So each chapter is a little bit different. So you just need to start searching and look around and find out. Do we have any questions that people want to ask us right now?
Yeah, Carl Asher has asked. He's asked, how do you find out if somebody was on the Mayflower? I guess he means like, I don't know if Carl means like, do we have a list of who was on there? And we do. There's definitely well-documented list.
The Mayflower Society has a list of all the people on the Mayflower.
They also have multiple generations of descendants from them as well, because with lack of population, it's quite documented. When when you do your genealogy, you get back so far, it usually can open up wide open because there's a lot more records as further back you go.
Right.
But I don't know if they have a different. I guess they're set up probably the same way you are.
They're set up very similar. They have a slightly different set of rules. And they have people that if you in the region for the Mayflower, they typically have a genealogist that will help you do your initial looking for about $40. I think they charge a fee of about $40. At least in Florida, that's the way it is. And they will then kind of do a real rough check on, and then they may either ask for a little bit more money to complete the process. I'm not exactly sure how the Mayflower works, but they do have people that can help you with that.
Sure, absolutely. Can you join a different chapter? Like, do you have to be part of the chapter that you live locally?
No, you can be in Florida. You can join as many chapters as you want for $10 a year. So we have a lot of people that have belonged to. A lot of people in Florida come to Florida in the winter, and they go home north in the summer. And they have a chapter up north, and they have a chapter in Florida. And some people have belonged to several chapters up north and several chapters down south. It only costs like about $10 more per year to have us belong to another chapter.
I imagine that some chapters are more active than other chapters. Like, say I want to be in a color guard, but they don't have a color guard in my area. But the next town over or place would have it, I guess.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And our Tampa chapter, believe it or not, is not that large as the Clearwater chapter.
Okay.
A lot of the Tampa chapter folks participate in some of our events over here in Clearwater.
Sure. What's the this is a unique question I'm getting ready to ask you, and it's kind of come back to some of the conversations that you and I have had. What would you say the average age is of someone that's in the Sons of the American Revolution, that's active in the group?
I'll tell you what, my guess is that average age would be about 65 to 70.
Right.
And the reason is because most people don't get excited about history until they get older.
I can't understand that, but I know it happens.
Well, I tell you what, I was never into history until I got interested in genealogy.
Okay.
Then I got interested in genealogy, and it just opened up history to me. Like I never, what was my great grandfather doing in Kentucky, and what was going on? Why did he do what he did? And there's something about genealogy and history that ties so close together that, and I just didn't become interested in that until I was about 50 years old. And so I'm now 73. And so I've been doing genealogy research for many, many years. And my wife's father, my father-in-law, got me interested in doing genealogy when he was doing genealogy. So why the younger people we're all only got so many hours in a day. So a lot of people are in their work, they've got kids, and for some reason, their interest just doesn't fly the same way as somebody who might be a little bit more senior in age takes an interest in it.
But you're trying to fix that, right?
Oh, yeah. We
definitely
really want to fix that. We're trying to here at the Clearwater chapter, we're trying to do that now and get the interest up. And one of the things we can do is get people active in the CAR, and that is children and grandchildren of people in the SAR, and then they would continue that on through life. So that's one of the things we're doing is pushing and trying to encourage people in our own families to become interested in the CAR.
Yeah, that's for sure, because we definitely need it out, or it's going to die out. It's kind of like these stories that that we try to tell on our videos and such, or we don't get a hold of them stories, they're going to die out. So,
that's correct. That's
like everywhere else. We got some questions that are rolling in too. Todd Nace, the Coach Nace, the head wrestling coach at Tays Valley High School, where we've been working at. Really cool to see him chime in. But his question is, it's really good. If my grandmother was in the DAR, will I get in the SAR?
Much easier, yes. Now, however, the DAR records, the older records are no longer valid. There's a certain cutoff point when, back many years ago, they did DAR records. They did not have the same standards of proof that they have today. And so it depends on when her records were proved. So he would have to go into the DAR records and check with his local SAR and say, hey, my grandmother, she's member number yada yada, 50623 or whatever in the DAR. Can I use that record for my SAR? And they would know whether that older application is valid today.
Because are you guys brother and sister organizations, or is it completely different?
They're completely different, but in fact, the SAR was the first one. The DAR followed along after, and then the CAR followed along after that. But we are totally different organizations. But we have a lot of DAR ladies come to our meetings, and we go to their meetings, and we do events together. But they're totally different organizations.
What kind of events do you do together?
We have genealogy sessions. Where we have speakers come in and speak on genealogy. We have speakers that come in at our chapter meetings to speak on the Revolutionary War, like the Hessians. What did the Hessians do during the war? So we attend meetings and go to those types of events and work together on that.
Okay, excellent. I'm sure there's a lot of husband and wife couples that that are, that attend these things together and things.
Absolutely. Several of our SAR members, their wives are DAR members. Yes.
So I guess to really answer his question, where he's, he's saying, can you, if grandma was already in the DAR, can you get in the SAR?
That's
probably, yeah, maybe.
Probably, it depends on when that application was approved.
Sounds like all he's going to have to do is prove out who his parent is and his grandparent are, and then he'll be able to roll with that. So it should be a pretty quick.
More than likely, that's true. More than likely,
should be a pretty quick process, not a multiple day process.
Right.
And Scott Denny says with Russ's help, he now has his connection to the Revolution, and he's wanting to join. He's in Tennessee, and he's a big fan of that orange team you were talking about earlier.
He's a volunteer.
Yeah, buddy, big time. But even though he lives closer to Vandy, and he went to Tennessee Tech, I think. But And then Rowena Combs says, does the SAR participate in Independence Day activities?
We participate, different chapters participate in different things and different events. Some chapters participate together in an event. Some chapters are very, very small. We have some chapters that are maybe only 4 or 5 members in the whole chapter, and they just are not big enough to organize or do anything, and that they'll quite often have maybe one meeting every 3 months, and that's all they do. Other chapters, every kind of event you can think of, they're there. They're in the parade.
Right.
It just depends on the chapter, and also sometimes schedules change during the year, and certain people are not available, so they might attend one event one year but not the next year. So it's not necessarily consistent from year to year.
It sounds like they need, a lot of times people are available to do things. They just don't know. People that are running an event may not know that there's a chapter nearby that might be interested. So it seems like you said you can Google what you said, SAR in your state, right. SAR Texas, SAR right. Utah, right. whatever.
Right.
And those organizations they'll be able to find them to maybe get them involved in things.
Start asking the questions and get involved and find somebody to help you become a member. Right.
A big question I have for you too is, I never asked you this ahead, so I'm putting you on the spot here, but okay. In today's world, we've got 50,000 things to be involved in. There's, I learned about this week, the last couple of days, I've learned about something called the Knights of Pythia or something like that. There's the Knights of Columbus, there's the Masons, there's the Shriners, there's all kinds of organizations that are out there that take up our time. Why should someone choose to join the Sons of the American Revolution instead of one of those other organizations? And why should they give their time to this one?
Well, it boils down to, how important do you believe that the Constitution of the United States is? How much do you think it's important for people to be patriotic about their country? How much do you think it's important to honor your flag of the United States? And how important do you think it is to get other people educated about these things in your community?
You got me motivated already, right there.
Now, if those things don't motivate you, then don't join, because that's what the SAR is all about. If these things do motivate you, then you need to join and at least try to join.
Yeah, that's right. I like that. That was some really good reasons there. So there's a lot of people that don't care about those things anymore.
Right.
So, but there's a whole lot of people that do. What are some things that you guys have planned in your organization coming up in the next little bit?
Well, we don't have much of anything. Our chapter shuts down in the summer, and
everybody goes home, huh?
Well, everybody in Florida goes back north. And so the months of June, July, and August, everybody's gone. Now, the month of September, I've got a really interesting thing we're planning on doing there. The month of September is Constitution Month. Most people don't know that, but September is Constitution Month. And there's a Constitution Week. I forget what the dates are on that week. But our speaker, for instance, that month is going to be a fellow named Tim Bryce. He speaks in radio. He's somewhat of an expert on the Constitution. He speaks in radio stations around the United States about Constitution and conservatism, and he's going to be our speaker on that day. And we're all going to also show up wearing our uniforms, and the ladies are going to wear their continental or their colonial dress, and we're going to wear our continental uniforms to that event at the Dunedin Golf Club. And so it'll be really nice. Everybody will be dressed up, and we'll be celebrating the Constitution and speaking about the Constitution.
That sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. You brought up another thought. I'm a preacher's kid,
Right.
So one of the things I always heard growing up, heard my dad say is, people don't want to come to church because they don't have the clothes to wear.
Right.
You've brought up a couple of times about the uniforms. Do they have to have the uniforms before they get involved?
No. You can come any way you want. The only time we use the uniforms, like I said, is if we have a special event to go to. And even if we do, and somebody doesn't have a uniform, they can come just the way that the way they want to come. That's fine. Most of us at our chapter meetings come in what we call a Class B uniform. And what that is, it's a blue blazer jacket and khaki colored pants. And then we have an SAR tie you can buy for a couple of dollars on the SAR website. That's got stripes in it with the continental colors on it. And so that, you know, a lot of people wear that we call that a Class B uniform. It's just a blazer and pants. That's all it is. Other than a lot of people come, they come in whatever they've got on. That's fine. We don't really require special dress for these things.
Well, yeah, because I could tell you a whole lot about my own ancestors that are militiamen, you know, that would have been just wearing whatever they had.
Right,
so,
right.
But I guess you guys have links to, you know, organizations to be able to get the, you know, the clothes that you need. You'll have connections in order to get that.
There are companies that will actually make these. In fact, I've got right now ordered for 9 of our members here the Continental uniform from a company in New York that shut down because of the virus. And they're not delivering the uniforms yet, but they are made by a company in New York. And so there'll be about 9 of us that historically have not had a uniform. They're going to have one, hopefully by midsummer.
And there's somebody that name just says Misty. She says she would like to speak with you. And we'll say this again at the end of the video then, but how can someone get a hold of you with some questions off of here?
Well, they can send me an email or call me on the phone, either one. What would you like for me to give?
Whatever you want to give, sir. Whatever you want to. You're going to go ahead and give that information out now, and we'll give it out at the end again. But
yeah, I'll give it out now. My phone number is area code 727-744-2041. And my email address is rhbrother. That's my initials. RHB are my initials. RHBROTHER at Verizon.net.
Easy enough. Good deal. That way they can be able to get a hold of you that way with some questions off there. But is there any other questions that are out there, folks? Go ahead and chime them in. And if you got any more questions now, and is there anything else that you'd want to say? Oh, there you go. He put the graphic up there with the information. Is there any other anything else you'd want to let us know about the SAR?
Well, I think that's just about it. All I can say is that we have a good time. We have fun, and you meet some wonderful people who have a common interest. You know, sometimes you can have a whole neighborhood full of people, but not anybody in your neighborhood has your same interest. So if you're interested in patriotism and history and education, and if you're interested in the Revolutionary War and our history about our country, then you want to be an SAR member, because then you're meeting with other people that have common interest. And so these people will come around that you never knew had a common interest, and all of a sudden you'll meet a neighbor that you never knew had a common interest. And so it's a really great way to meet new friends that have a common interest.
And learn about your ancestor, too.
And learn about your ancestors and genealogy and history.
Some of these folks that are in these organizations, they know what happened on a day-to-day basis with the unit that your ancestor was in. There's so much documentation about where they were and who else was there and who they were fighting against and what the weather was that day and what exactly they did during that day. So there's so much information that's out there if you can just prove it. Getting it proved in the beginning is the hard part, kind of thing. So
that's true.
Awesome. Well, I don't see any other questions, so I guess we can wrap it up here. Like I said, I'm getting a drink here. We're with Mr. Robert Brotherton with the Clearwater chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution there in Florida. So we make sure we're going to see his graphic again. If you want to get in touch with them, get in touch with your local SAR group. And I'm inspired, so I guess I'm going to be your first guy to do it. I know we talked offline about that. I have 13 of my own ancestors that are Revolutionary War veterans, but I haven't went through the steps, kind of thing. So you've inspired me to do so.
Once you become a member, you get to wear a little pin on your lapel, and then if you approve additional members, those are called supplementals. And so for every supplemental, you get a star. And so we got some people that have on their jackets, they have 4 or 5 stars, because that shows that they have. So when you're in a member, you're talking to somebody, they got 5 stars. Oh, they got 5 proven ancestors who fought in the Revolutionary War. So it's kind of a way of identifying your ancestry by the stars that are on your jacket. So that's really lots of neat things like that are part of the organization. So
Yeah,
so
that's really neat.
So and this is Memorial Day, right? We're talking Memorial Day today.
Right. Perfect day for it.
So are we going to show a video at the end of our program today, or when are we going to do that?
Yeah, we're gonna lead out with that. What video is that? You want to tell about that video before we show it?
That video that we're getting ready to see is which I've never seen before. There's a trumpet player playing a duet with electric guitar, and they're playing taps.
Awesome. And who's in the video?
The video playing the trumpet is my son.
Awesome.
And it's his son, Nicholas, that was in the first video, leading everybody in the American's Creed. That's his son. They live in Washington. They live in Washington D.C. And this is my son, Joe Brotherton, playing with a friend there at the Washington Monument and playing taps. It's a very, very moving type of thing to hear, I think.
Absolutely, without a doubt. And you brought another thing up there. It's about family. This is definitely something that can be done with your multiple generations of your family, kind of thing. Like you said, yourself and your son and your grandson.
Right.
And how awesome is that to be able to share that with them?
Right.
To any events and things. So
absolutely.
All righty. So we're going to, here in just a second, we're going to cut off to the video. So make sure you get in touch with Mr. Brotherton there if you have any other further questions, or send us a message. Share this video around. Get this video out there because I think there's been some very valuable information out there that folks just aren't familiar with. So, Mr. Brotherton, thank you so much for coming on our show this evening. We greatly appreciate that. And hey, everybody, remember, Family Tree Nuts. Let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.
At Family Tree Nuts, we make professional, historic videos all over the country and currently have videos in 25 states and even a few international. Let's face it, nobody wants to read anymore. As a matter of fact, nobody wants to even watch long videos, which is why I'm going to keep this real quick. Moving into the future, how are we going to educate the public on all the historic treasures that are found in every community? We have found the answer. Short, entertaining, and to-the-point videos with lots of shots and views that are relevant to the subject. These videos are shared on social media and are the fastest and least expensive way to educate the community on the history of your area. We have experience working with historical organizations as well as city or county tourism departments and Chamber of Commerce's to produce these videos for their use. Our clients are provided with copies of any video produced as well as online links to the videos that they can easily add to their websites. Let us document and produce videos of just a few or all the historic sites in your area. You will find our rates extremely affordable and well below the industry standard for media production. We are passionate about preserving and documenting as many historical sites as we can, and we would love to work with you. For more information, contact me directly at russ@familytreenuts.org or my personal phone at 859-314-1976. And remember, Family Tree Nuts, let our nuts find the nuts in your family tree.